you're in a car, whether you're on the road, good to see everyone. Thank you for making time today to join us. And this is the official launch party of Reconnecting Workspaces. It is June the 15th, 2021, and I'm super excited to be bringing this book, Reconnecting Workspaces, out into the world. So I'm going to just share a little bit to start because I've got, of course, a usual warm up. And here's where I want to start. Are you remote by choice or remote by chance? Because March 2020, over 3 billion people went remote overnight. So interesting to think about, are you remote by choice or you remote by chance? That's something we talk a lot about at the Remote Pathways podcast. And I realized I should probably introduce myself. So I'm Jennifer Britton. I want to welcome you to this official launch party for Reconnecting Workspaces. I'm excited that we are together and we're going to be able to be together in terms of having a conversation today about my new book, Reconnecting Workspaces, as well as thinking about how you can be incorporating this into your world of work. So really, we're at a moment in time. It's June 2021. A lot of the world is starting to reopen, and it's an opportunity to think about how do we reimagine what's possible with our world of work. So if you've never met me before, one thing you should know about me, a couple things. One, I'm a coach and I am an experiential educator. So I never want to just have a one-way passage of information. I like to get you involved. I want to start that because Reconnecting Workspaces is about reconnecting ourselves. So I've got some visuals on the screen, and I'd invite you, using annotation, to actually start marking, using annotation, which is the icon, or which is the photo that represents what you want to see as possible in your world of work. So think about what's possible with your world of work right now. And I'll get you to use annotation. No right answer here, but it's sort of interesting in terms of seeing what our interest areas are. So welcome to those that are just dialing in and joining us. I'm Jennifer Britton, your host this afternoon, as we get kicked off with Reconnecting Workspaces. And to bring you into the room, which is so important in the virtual sense, is an invitation to grab your annotation tools, which are always found at the top of your screen, and to invite you to actually stamp what is your photo or imagination of what's possible. So I'm going to just make Michelle, you're going to be the host now, Michelle, and I'll get you to let people in as we go. I'll also ask Michelle to mute and unmute people, just so we can hear everyone. But notice across our room, right? I think what we're seeing in the world today is a hunger for people to come together, to get back in the office, to be physically together where it's possible and where it's feasible. For some, though, it's really about staying where we are and being, able to incorporate and find that balance. So thank you for, participating in that. I hope that you found that interesting. I'm going to just clear our board and want to take you in today's call through a little bit about this new body of work. So this is my 6th book. If you've never met me before, I'm the author of 3 other books on coaching. So my first one, Effective Group Coaching, my second one, From One to Many, Best Practices for Team and Group Coaching, followed by The Coaching Business Builder. Back in 2017, I then started writing as well on the area of virtual and remote work. And it really reflects my last 3 decades of work, where I've supported so many people across the world, across the Caribbean, in creating not only exceptional remote work and virtual work, but hybrid work. And what you can see on the screen at the top right is really one of the old school ways that I used to communicate with my teams, which is that old MASH style radio set. You might have heard me talk about this before, but these are the things that really are, this was our lifeline across a country that could take 5 days of travel. So as I started writing Effective Virtual Conversations in 2017, I felt that it was really going to be my legacy book. I had to go into surgery that year and felt that, virtual conversations were on the horizon. Keep in mind, this is 2017. It was not 2020. And so as I took that book around to actually traditional publishers, time and time again, people said, oh, we're not interested in virtual. We're not interested in remote. And here we are now, 2021, and the world really has lived in a year plus of remote and hybrid work. So I'm really excited to be welcoming Reconnecting Workspaces to the family of the books of my, of my writing. In fact, the Reconnecting Workspaces, this book is similar, I would say, to a little bit like Effective Virtual Conversations or From One to Many, because it really is like the tome of a lot of future work that's going to be coming out. And when I say future work, there's going to be a book coming out in about 2.5 months called the 90-Day Guide. And that is for onboarding remote and hybrid workers, really a key issue to HR folks right now. And that will be followed up by a team book specifically for remote and hybrid teams, and then followed on by some others. So I want to say thank you for making time. And I know many of you have asked me, like, what's the backstory to this book? And I'm always intrigued in that as an author myself. So a lot of people might think, oh, Jennifer's just been writing this in the last year. Well, in fact, this book started under a different title. It started under a title of VRTWL back in October, November of 2017. I put my fingers to the keyboard on the morning of November 1st, 2017, on a 1-hour flight from Toronto to New York. It was the day after, actually, a terrorist, not attack, but there was something that happened in New York City on Halloween. Some of you might remember that. And I was sitting at the downtown airport in Toronto wondering, is the airport even going to be open in New York City? I figured, well, at least I've come here. I may not make it to New York to actually speak for the day, but I can at least start writing for this new writing project, which was going to be about virtual and remote teams, work, and leadership. So what's interesting is even after that, writing happened. I had really the guts of the book, but then along came Plan, Do, Track. And I was like, I think I'm going to launch Plan, Do, Track first. And virtual fell by the wayside until last spring when the world went virtual. And I felt like, you know what, it's time for this book to come out. And as some of you know, last year was a year of a lot of challenges for so many of us. It was not only a busy year, but it was a busy year on my personal front with support to my parents. Also, I was not well at one point last year. And so virtual fell by the wayside until last summer when I said, I've got to revive this and really get it out into the world. So what you see is almost a 4-year journey of a book. And this winter, we decided, we being my book team and I, decided to rename it from virtual to reflect a little bit of the work that I've been doing with Michelle Mullins, who's gracefully hosting the room today. Michelle, of course, is my podcast co-host at the Remote Pathways podcast. And we've been doing a lot of great work, great conversations with folks around what makes remote work excel. And that really got me thinking, you know what, this book is no longer just about virtual and remote. It was also about hybrid, because the world is continuing to change. And so what I was able to do, in my own writing, which was infused by some additional writing projects the summers of 2019 and 2020, was really take these characters that I'd created in the Muskoka Novel Marathon, which are known as the Digital Dozen. And if you followed our podcast, you will hear in the first 8 episodes of the Remote Pathways podcast the journeys of these 12 different types of professionals. Now, Reconnecting Workspaces does not have as a significant rule these members of the Digital Dozen. You'll read a few case studies around them. However, they really encompass our world today. Think about the people that maybe you've worked to support, or maybe you're one of them. Perhaps you're like Ned, the new remote worker, or like Joe, the virtual team leader. And we really met Joe and Jane, who you'll see down on the next row. We met Joe and Jane in Effective Virtual Conversations. Surge has just emerged, and Surge has a digital entrepreneurship book coming out in 2022. There's also Mel, who's a coach, Sujit, a project manager. We've got Sally, who's a salesperson, Mo, a creative solopreneur. Of course, I mentioned Jane. We've also got Malcolm, who's a mentor. And there's a chapter in Reconnecting Workspaces all on mentoring and the differences between mentoring and coaching, because I think many of you, like myself, get asked to come in and do some work around coaching, when in fact, the organization is using mentoring. Right now, in terms of helping people thrive in this virtual space, we need coaching, mentoring, and a lot of different approaches. So I hope that you're going to enjoy these new characters who really are on the horizon. Michelle and I, in fact, we've had the Digital Dozen being joined by the virtual Lucas in this last year. And now that we're going hybrid, there's also going to be a hybrid group of characters showing up. So stay tuned for that. But what we're here about today is the first of many books. So this is a little bit about reconnecting workspaces. I think most of you will find this of interest. There's a flyer that you can download over at the new website, Reconnecting Workspaces, really getting you to think about what the future of work is all about. And you can pick up a copy of this. I know several of you have said, I want to pick up a copy, so order it now. It released a few days early, which is a great thing. And just to take you through, I'm not going to take you through each one of the 21 chapters. Excuse me. In fact, I'll do former calls or future calls on that. But there are 5 main areas that I wanted to spotlight tonight. And thank you, Michelle, for putting the website Reconnecting Workspaces in. Under Amazon, if you Google my name or you Google Reconnecting Workspaces, you'll see both analog copies as well as Kindle copies that are now available. As of last night, I think Kindle went up. 5 areas that I want to touch on today, just very briefly. I'm not going to do a lot of depth here because today's call was more to just give you a little flavor of the book, but it's really about, today's workspace, team effectiveness, relationship management, leadership and teamwork, and also conversations. So think about how you're touching all of these different areas in your work each and every day. And I think I'll just get you to annotate again, maybe share with us, one of these areas that you've been engaged with throughout this month. As you think about the month of June, where have you been spending your time? Has it been working in support of people developing relationships? Has it been working with leaders and teams or in general conversations? Take a moment and just highlight, using that annotation tool, which one of these you've been focusing on this month. And great, Fernando. I'm glad that you bought the Kindle version last night. I hope you're starting to devour it. So let us know. Anyone who does pick up a copy, I'd welcome any feedback you have. Again, as I've said, it really is going to feed forward. I'd also love what you are interested in learning more about, because I think that's really key. And I'll be doing calls. I'm actually going to do a few more calls this week just to really bring out different sections of the work into the world. And then I'll be doing bi-weekly calls throughout the summer. So just notice, right, where we're as a group touching practices, so leadership and teamwork practices. And in fact, there's chapters on both, because one of the things in the remote space is we do need to have exceptional leaders and we do need to have exceptional remote workers. So what are the practices that are going to support leaders and teams? Also conversations, right? Conversations can be many in this space, and especially when we're not all physically together, or some of us might be on site, some of us might be off site. What is the type of conversation we're actually having? Is it coaching? Is it mentoring? Is it feedback or talent management? Think through that, and definitely there's more coming at you. Now, what's interesting, and I didn't include this, but every chapter is written in such a way that there's a myth and a principle. One of the things that we've seen in this last year is that the myths of remote work have really been almost obliterated in so many ways. Does anyone remember, the myth of like, oh, people will stay in their pajamas all day, right? That was like a very common sort of mantra, like we can't have people work outside of the office because they'll be in pajamas all day. Well, we've really seen, and I think the human spirit has really come forward in this pandemic in terms of looking at how do we keep businesses thriving? How do we keep organizations running to, be an economic engine for, communities and nations. So I hope that you'll enjoy not only the myths, but the practices. There are also brain tips scattered in each chapter. So I've woven in some of the science behind each of these 21 areas that we explore. And then there's also a reconnection tip, because reconnecting in the workspace is one of the most important pieces. So you're going to notice, and I'm going to do calls Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. So the next 3 days. So that would be what, the 16th, 17th, 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern for anyone who wants to come back. But I'm going to be talking about the triad of trust, safety, and connection. I'm also going to dig into team tools. And why I'm looking over my shoulder is because I just want to recall, all of the elements. And one of the big elements of every chapter is a team tool. Team leaders, coaches, facilitators, team members themselves really need and are hungry for process and structure right now. And so I hope that you're going to enjoy the team tools. For those that are going to be joining me in the coach certification in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be diving deeply into what those tools are and how you can be using them. So thanks for sharing that with me and with us. I think it's always interesting to see where groups are across the spectrum of many different areas. And so 21 chapters, it really reflects the philosophy here at Potentials Realized. And our programming has really been about digital delivery, always learning, team connections, regular engagement. It's about having a strong process. And I will continue to really advocate for virtual first on many, many levels. As much as Zoom fatigue has been real, it also has provided us a tremendous opportunity to connect and to help people connect from across boundaries. A lot of people are always surprised when they hear that, oh, you're in Canada. And in most days, I don't think there's a difference. But when we have had a year plus where I can't even cross the border, it's made a big difference in terms of, ability to do business, etc. And I think a lot of this is key too for, many people like yourself and myself navigating roles. And, I know every day I couldn't do what I did if I had to have a 2-hour commute on top of everything else that I support. So our philosophy for Potentials Realized really woven through the book. I hope that you'll enjoy that. And that's because part of the vision, part of my vision as the founder of Potentials Realized is in this next decade, by the end of 2029, I want to make sure that we have supported 5 million virtual, remote, and hybrid professionals. That's a big number when you look at it in a decade. But if you break it down by year, it's actually, I think, really, really feasible, at least in terms of what's happening in this business right now. And so I would say the last 5 years as I've been taking out this work, it's been so interesting to really see what people are resonating with, not only coaches, but also HR professionals. It's also been interesting to listen to teams and leaders, what they need. And so what I think you're going to find in these 21 chapters is just so much tangible things that people can use. Now, in taking out other books, I've really heard from readers that they love a bookmark. So there's a new Reconnecting Workspaces bookmark. It'll be shipped to me. It is now live. I'll do a digital copy. People want to just print it out and have it on there. You can make your own bookmark, but I will look to send out some of these. And there'll be a series. So it's a 2-sided bookmark. And the back of it is going to have different ways to build trust in your virtual or hybrid team, because Michelle and I know from looking at statistics, that has been the most widely downloaded episode at Remote Pathways podcast. People by far are hungry to try and figure out, how do we build trust and connection? And I think that was really a big reason why I felt that now was the time, even with all the other things I have on the go, now is the time to really get Reconnecting Workspaces out in the world, because it truly is a resource guide to help people thrive. So some of you are joining me next week for the first inaugural coach certification. I can't do this alone, and I've been saying that for over a year. I've been able to sort of harness the best of what we've learned with building the Plan, Do, Track facilitator community, which will continue growing, but we're also going to start growing the Reconnecting Workspaces coach or certified coaches. And these amazing individuals will really have specialized skills in hybrid work, in remote work, and the latest and greatest around the research of what is needed in this space in terms of helping people connect, converse across the whole ecosystem of learning. So that's kicking off next week. There are still some spaces if people want to join us, and you can go to reconnectingworkspaces.com/coach training. It's going to be, or it's actually under review right now for 24 hours of continuing coach education with the ICF, with the International Coach Federation. So that will come in shortly. I'm hoping that we'll have a bulk of that in core coaching competencies. And really, most importantly, it's going to be a great baseline for people to take in, because even today, half of my day has been spent in the world with coaches, but half of my day has been spent in conversation with HR professionals. A lot of HR professionals and leaders and CEOs right now are thinking and struggling with, what can this world of work look like? Which takes us back to that question of, what would you like it to look like? I think that's an important question for us to ask. So to really entice you to maybe pick up a copy for yourself, there's some book launch bonuses that are going on for the rest of the month. So if you've already ordered a copy, great. You will be eligible, at least if you bought one copy. I've done a series of bonus worksheets. Yay, Sherry's got her copy. And also I'm going to be doing a special call for book purchasers before the end of this month, date still to be set, called 5 Ways to Reconnect in the Workspace. So that'll be a 45-minute call that I'll host. Send me your Amazon invoice. Just, you can delete all your personalized information, please. I don't need to see that, but just to say how many copies you bought. If you buy 1 copy, we'll be doing that call this month. If you buy 5 copies and pass it on, you'll get a 20 discount to a coach training of your choice. No ceiling on that one. If you buy 10 copies, you can join me for a special 45-minute one-on-one design sprint where I'll work with you on designing a program. If you do 25 copies, it'll be a 30-minute one-on-one coaching conversation, and that is with your team or your group. 100 copies, I am happy to join you for a 2-hour group call with your team. And 1,500 copies, because I have had organizations say, how many can you provide for us? I will join you as a keynote speaker. So I hope that that will be something making this whole process even better together. And with that, we're going to really look at, how do we help you do your best work? So before we leave today, and I'm going to open it up for questions, just a reminder, I'm going to be doing more calls this week, just to really bring the book out into the world. And so 4 p.m. Eastern, every day this week, I'm going to do a half-hour call. I'll do one Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, same Zoom line, and then bi-weekly starting Monday mornings throughout the summer of 2021. I know that so many people are in this asynchronous world, catching up on things. That's been the truth, even with, I remember, effective virtual conversations. So I'd love to hear from you. What are your questions right now? How can we address some of these in the calls as well? Today is going to be more like me talking, but the rest of the calls, I want them to have some interactive element so that you can also see the different ways that you can be incorporating it. So next steps for you, even if you've had your ideas sparked today, definitely pick up a copy of the book, whether it's digital or physical. It's great to know that one of you has already got a copy of it in the Kindle format. Also join us at the Remote Pathways podcast. So Michelle Mullins is here with me today. We host bi-weekly calls as well. First Thursday of every month is our Remote Pathways community call at 7 a.m. It's a breakfast call. So bring your coffee or favorite breakfast beverage. Our next call, I think, Michelle, we're going to do Canada Day. We're going to do July 1st, because I'll be up at the cottage and I like to get the most out of Canada Day. And, definitely visit us at remotepathways.com, because releasing tomorrow, Michelle, what's the name of our episode tomorrow? 9 ways to support hybrid teams.
Yeah, 9 things hybrid workers need.
9 things hybrid workers need. So that's our episode 39, I believe. Episode 39. And I'll invite you to really listen in on your favorite podcast player of choice. We release it, we drop it, as podcasters say, at 6 a.m., around 6 a.m. Eastern. So you can listen to it in your morning walk or workout. But increasingly, we've just had amazing guests. In the last few months, we've interviewed founders and co-founders of amazing organizations that are doing, a lot of asynchronous learning, asynchronous leadership. What are the ones you've liked, Michelle? Not to put you on the spot, but which have you been, I know which one have been your favorite conversations, but you could maybe share it in your words. Who have you enjoyed?
Yeah, the new platform Commons. I like that because I like the visual component and just the heartbeat behind it of bringing people together for conversations.
So definitely, tune in, theremotepathways.com. And if you have questions, connect with me. I'm available through my Calendly link, calendly.com/Jen Britton, JENNBRITTON. Yes, many of the hours are early in the day, and that's because I continue to work globally without having to get on a plane. So, if there's ever a day that you do want to meet and you can't get something in my calendar, just reach out to me, info@potentialsrealized.com. And then several of you will be with us next week at the coach training. If you're still interested in joining us and you want to be ahead of the curve in terms of hybrid work and what organizations are needing right now in this moment, summer 2021, definitely check out reconnectingworkspaces.com/coach training and join us next week. And that's it. So I'm going to say, join us again tomorrow, but there are some festivities and there's going to be a few prizes as well. So I did get a cake. It's a little hard to cut the cake. So this was what they had in stock, a chocolate cake. So I got a chocolate cake this time, to my family's chagrin. But anyways, I said it was in stock. So we're going to just enjoy that. I'll cut the cake for good luck, right? I brought my knife here into the office. My son is busy in a student meeting, so he can't attend to take photos. But I will cut the cake for good luck, because that is tradition in our family. And then I wanted to just spark a conversation and hear from you. What are you excited about as you're supporting people who are reconnecting in a workspace? I hope that's okay. If you don't want to be on video, feel free to turn off. But what are you really excited about right now in terms of the changes that are starting to happen in the workspace and workplace today? Does anyone want to share what you're noticing or having dialogue around? Carrie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So what I think is really interesting is, as countries start to feel like they're kind of coming back, a lot of employees and team leaders are really asking the question of what are we returning to, and really asking some tough questions about, hey, I was able to be successful at home. How do we continue this? So I think it's the conversation that's happening and also just where it's going to end up. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, having dialogue, right? Zoom makes it hard to have dialogue, but we want to have conversations. So how are we creating circles in organizations? And actually part of my vision is we won't just have coaches, but there will be a circle methodology, and that will be really sort of start to train people up with it internally and externally to organizations later this summer. So in August and September, to help organizations really identify and be equipped with internal processes so that they can have the conversations as people move forward. Because the collaborative piece is a piece that's been the hardest in this space. And it's really what I think, why it's called Reconnecting Workspaces. People want to be heard, they want to be connected. And, most organizations don't have a lot of people who, maybe there's a few in learning, but it's not a huge amount of people. So we also need to look at how do we equip more people to get that equipped. Anything else that you're curious about or you're seeing and hearing right now? Sherry, what are you noticing?
I had today I had a leadership development class that was reporting out on its group projects, and the topics were hybrid work, developing the next generation of leaders, and the multi-generational workforce. And as they presented all of their work in all three different topics, it all fits so nicely into reconnecting workspaces. And I think there's a real hunger for support and being able to do this the right way or not have to rework so much. And so I think there's a real interest and appetite for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I'll love, and all of you, I know some of you are in different geographic locations, right? Like, I think this is a grassroots conversation. It's not a top-down conversation. It's a bottom-up or a peer-to-peer. How do we, you know, really encourage people to find a pause, to think about, you know, what is it that you need to do your best work so that, you know, we can really help people thrive and support others to thrive, because there's a lot of other issues that have been happening in this pandemic as well. And so there's, you know, structural support we want to look at. There's peer support that we can be looking at for those that are coaches. You know, this is the heart of coaching, helping people have a better conversation, a focused conversation towards their vision and what they want to create. Some of you sit in HR, so, you know, from an HR perspective, what support is needed, policies, procedures, as well as programming from across the board as well. So I want to say a big thank you. I was going to do a couple of giveaways. And so I was going to give away, first off, I was going to do a digital copy of the book, which I will sign with a placard, you know, a name placard, because the mail is also not moving so efficiently anymore across borders. So here's the quiz question, and we're going to do it. Michelle, I'm going to get you to look at chat right now. And I said a little statistic at the start of the call. How many billion people went digital or remote overnight? And first one to put it in the chat. How many billion people went digital or virtual overnight? Michelle Bastock got the right answer. So Michelle, you get a digital copy with a name placard, or I might even be able to send to you out west. I could just send a physical copy to you. So I'll send you a physical copy with a name card. Okay, so that is one. Carrie likes that, right? What else can we add? So here's what I want to crowdsource. Yay, Michelle B. Here's what I want to do. I want to crowdsource some ideas. If you had a choice, okay, there's no right answer to this one, but if you had a choice to start a conversation right now with a remote or hybrid team, where would you start the conversation? Would it be what we have to do, who we are as a team, what our vision is, or what our values are? So no right answer, but I'm curious, where would you start the conversation if you were working with a team? As a leader, as a coach, would you start with any one of those? What we have to do, who we are, what our vision is, what our values are. And I'll invite you to look to chat, right? Because I think this is an interesting question for a lot of people. Where do we start the conversation? We know conversations need to happen, but where do we start the conversation? And what I love and appreciate, which happens in a team at any time, is just the variety of responses. So I'll just read these out, or Michelle, maybe I'll get you to read these out if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So let's see here. Sherry says values. Inga is vision. Carrie says values. Michelle B, where we are. Marty is vision. Rosemary, what our vision is. Jackie is values. So I see a strong vision and values pattern coming up.
Yeah. And someone who isn't here today, who I share about, is the work of Patty Dabrowski. So Patty couldn't make it this afternoon, but she is one of the many people I spotlight in the book. And she is the creator of something known as Draw Your Future. Some of you, if you've been with me this year in the 21 for 21, you've had an opportunity to go through what is a very experiential, graphical way to look at creating a vision. And what we know is just how important vision is in times of disruption. It literally creates the horizon to which we can look towards. And so when everyone on a team or an organization has a shared vision, we can keep that in our focus of control. It doesn't mean that things aren't happening around us, but because it's so far out, it provides a bit of stability or perceived security, which is so important for staff as they're thinking about, where am I going? What am I doing? Am I going back to the office? Am I not? What will I do with childcare and elder care? all of these different areas. So vision work, for those that are coaches on the call, this is an area that I think, definitely can be explored with clients, asking, is this something that you want us to, to start the conversation with? Because as we know, in the coaching realm, vision creates that frame in which so much magic can happen. Okay, so I have one more question for you, which is, what do you think the biggest stretch area is for remote and hybrid organizations right now? What do you think the biggest stretch is? And when I say stretch, challenge, pain point, stretch, what do you think it is right now? No right answer again. And here's the thing I would also say as a researcher, it continues to shift dramatically, right? One of the challenges of writing this book has been really to stay current in an environment which is ever changing. So the data, right, our experience, our lived experience, our shared practice is also continuing to change. And Michelle B or Michelle M, I'll get you to read those out for us.
Yeah, some great stuff coming in. Michelle B, engaging remote and virtual teams. Carrie says, leading people when proximity is no longer helping to make it happen. Sherry says, communication and not just focusing on logistics and more on people. Marty says, connection and relationship. Rosemarie, communication and connection. Jackie, equity. And Inga, engagement and connection.
So notice all of those different possibilities, right? There's like so many different doorways or pathways, as we would say at the remote pathways, doorways into that conversation. So thank you for being here to celebrate a milestone. Does anyone have a comment on how they're going to take this learning forward from today or take their content from the new book forward? What are you going to do with this? Because it's really not just about me writing a book. It's about people putting this into practice. How do you hope that you will take your time with us today forward, or more importantly, some insights? So Carrie's saying, attend your coach training program. All right, Carrie. Rosemarie, did I see the celebration flag go up on yours? Yeah, just celebrating. What else? Does anyone have any engagements coming up that they're going to actually put this into practice around? Yeah, Michelle V. Yeah, and Inga is really excited about the training program. I'm excited too, right? Because I think this is the forefront with the coach training. It's like you're going to be equipped with skills that really are needed now, not 6 months from now, but are going to be needed like in the coming weeks. And as the context changes, it's going to really put you in a really great space. So I hope you'll come back tomorrow, 4 p.m. I'll talk about the triad of trust, safety, and connection. On Thursday, I'm going to look at team tools. And then on Friday, I'm going to talk about what I think Jackie had the topic of equity. Equity and inclusion. Friday, I'm actually presenting to the Association of Coach Training Organizations first thing in the morning. And my presentation that day is on bringing all voices into the virtual room. How do we really include all voices in this space? And so that'll be our topic here, an abridged version of that I'll bring to Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. So definitely check out the resources, a new website, reconnectingworkspaces.com. Share this with your colleagues who can benefit, whoever they are, wherever they are in the world, because we're all at different timelines. The whole world is moving into a new or a different way of working as we speak. I want to thank my team as well. So several of you have been providing support. Michelle has helped me talk through this book for many years. I think, Michelle, you remember when I was talking about it as virtual. And luckily she said yes in the summer of 2019, when I came off writing a manuscript for yet another book that will come out. And I said, Michelle, would you be interested in co-hosting a podcast with me? I think I want to do a podcast on remote work because I'm getting so many questions. And thank you, Michelle M, for saying yes. I'm being supported this summer. I'm so lucky to be supported by Inga, who is with us at Potentials Realized. And Inga is, bringing such a great baseline as a business professional, design thinking, I would say, specialist, also a focus on innovation, which is helping to up the ante. And Carrie Dobson has joined me in this last 6 weeks to help me with the whole book learning strategy. So thanks to you, Carrie. Also, but behind the scenes, Honey Idike, who is in the Philippines, also supports me. Obviously, she is not with us because it's about 4:30 in the morning, but she's been a big part of this process as well. And then my book team, which is a whole other team in and of itself. But as I like to say, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a team to really bring amazing work out in the world. And I want to thank all of you for taking time today to join us. So let's go. And we've had our connection, but I'll invite you to go and connect with someone you want to have a great dialogue with. If you are posting anything on social media, make sure you use the new hashtags of reconnectingworkspaces.com or just reconnecting workspaces hashtag or hashtag let's talk hybrid, because you know that I've been using let's talk virtual, let's talk remote. Let's Talk Virtual was 2017 and 18. Let's Talk Remote was 2019, 2020. And so now we're going to do Let's Talk Hybrid for 2021. And with that, be well, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.